Hi there, and welcome to today's session dated August 9th, 2021. Please note these videos are for educational purposes only and not to be taken for advice. Note that trading in general is risky and that past performance is not indicative of future results. If you need to know more about our terms and conditions, please visit our website at www.esttrader.com. So today we're going to discuss, or I'm going to talk about the weekly market update, looking at the bigger time frame, just in preparation basically for the week. We're going to look at the macro fundamentals, and then we're going to see if there's any potential, basically, trades. So let's go first in terms of news. There are some medium impact news based on Eastern Standard Time. The FOMC member Bostic basically spoke earlier that jolts the job openings, where we have last one was 9.48 million. Today was 10.07 million, where the forecasted one is 9.27. So it was less in terms of forecast, but today's number was way more, and hence was way more of the continuation, or the S&P basically was dropping and it came back up, but I'll show you that later on. FOMC member Barkin basically spoke. I mean, we'll speak today at 12 o'clock. Actually, currently it's not speaking already at this point in time. And then later on tonight, we have the Australian news, where National Australia Bank Business Confidence will be the topic or the report right there. Tomorrow, we have the ZEW economic sentiment that used to be a high impact news. German ZEW economic sentiment, 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 Pacific Standard Time. And then back to the Westpac consumer sentiment in Australia. Wednesday, you have CPI, core CPI. Thursday, you have PPI, purchasing price index, core PPI, and employment claims. Then 30-year bond option, and this Friday we have consumer sentiment. So I don't know how the market is going to be reacting this week, but it's going to be either be quiet or some form of activity depending on what it's going to happen based on the news. All right, so those are basically on the news segment. Let's go through looking at the weekly chart here. There's definitely a decrease in volume. So there's some divergence happening even in with oscillators such as your RSIs or any form of momentum. There's some form of divergence or prices heading up, and overbought and oversold conditions, especially where it's overbought, it's actually depleting. So right at this point in time, if you can see there in terms of the volume, is definitely there's a lot of decrease. So I'm not bullish with the S&P short to medium term. I know it's still basically in an uptrend, but there's going to be some form of correction that's bound to happen. It's just a matter of when, once again. Today, on the other hand, created a new lower high, and 4 hours is actually really looking good. So if I'm going to place a bet, this is a high probability trade for it dropping. That's basically from looking at it objectively, and after 1, 2, 3, 4 with this momentum and a lot of force right there, odds and probability that this is going to fail is more than likely to happen. All right, so that's where in the S&P. Let's look at the volatility index. Weekly, notice a big jump right there. So there's a gap based on the opening and the closing. It's an area of demand. I am a bullish medium term with the VIX, and likewise for the daily. It is just sitting within the constraints of the demand area. So I'm also bullish with that one. And looking at the dollar index, as per our forecast within the higher low forming, odds and probability, like I said, to retest this from last Friday, 93.19, 93.43. If it breaks through for this one, it's going to head towards approximately around the 97 area, which is here, 97, 98. It will be the forecast for the dollar index medium term. So I'm bullish medium term. Short term, like in terms of the daily, notice in terms of depletion of force since it's approaching supply, unless it breaks out 93.20. Other than that, there's going to be some form of a minor correction before a continuation to the upside. Oil is also looking really nice. It's a matter of, did it create a new low? I believe it did. 965.17, 65.11. No, it did not. So based on the weekly, very forceful candle, still filling within that gap through there as per forecast. So it's also hitting within this downtrend line. So you have this convex uptrend, downtrend within the distance. So depending on what it will do, it could rebound since it's also in an uptrend. If a higher low will happen, then as of tomorrow, then I'm basically going to be bullish all the way to approximately around 70, 71. And that's when the dollar index as well is going to correct itself. So same holds true with crude oil, basically Brent crude oil. Same. So the same basically pattern with oil anyway. Gold tanked again another 2% after the breakout around that 1800. So from the correction to the downside, 1680. So as per forecast for the past basically few weeks from this correctional component, because of this very forceful candle basically is happening. It's just a matter of then whether how strong is this demand going to be? If this demand is going to be strong, so mind you, actually it happened earlier yesterday. So it tanked and came back up and now simply wanting to fill this gap. If a higher low will form, then there's going to be some form of a correction since there's a lot of force and momentum for the past basically 2 trading days. They have to give it back as well from a correctional standpoint. All right, weekly, still very bearish with it, but it's just a matter, like I said, time whether they will break out within the strong demand through here. Okay, so let me close the door here for 1 second. Window. Okay, so very good demand area, $1,600 an ounce, 1680. And looking at the monthly, mind you, it's still very bullish. Can't ignore that. And as far as I'm concerned, this is also just a correction prior to that because the dollar index also very strong. And after from 1900 all the way down to 1680, that's quite a hefty one. Then they have to rebound for some reason. I mean, around somewhere around 1830, and then we'll come back down once again. Okay, so short term, majorly short term, bearish. Longer short term in terms of the daily time frame, depending on where it's at, I'm bullish. Medium term to longer term, let's say medium term is more basically bearish to stabilize within the demand. Longer term still very bullish, so because no major lower high as yet. Okay, so that's within gold. Copper, looking at the weekly, also very bearish to there, but it's from a correctional standpoint. I'm also bearish with this all the way down around $4.12, maybe $4. Daily time frame, somewhere I'm bullish as well with it since it's already basically at demand. TYX is leading at this point as well, so they're also very, I'm bullish with it after that higher low basically happened, and hence currently in the same link or synchronicity with the dollar index. All right, so weekly, I'm bullish with it. Medium term, maybe having back around 220, somewhere around there, around 240 from this correctional. It could even continue if it chooses to, if the dollar as well, part of our forecast will lead towards around that 97 area. All right, so that's based on the macro fundamentals, and then we'll look in terms of the majors against the US dollar. Do you have any questions there, Perry?
No, I was looking at him a little bit before we got on here. It seems to be what I was seeing, so I don't have any questions.
Good, as long as we're in the same boat, like in terms of objectivity, that's all that matters. All right, let's look in terms of the Aussie against the US dollar. Aussie US dollar weekly time frame is very bearish, and notice you have a gravestone doji at level demand. However, you have also a bunch of higher lows. It could potentially create some form of correction since the price at demand, I am not a seller at demand, so I gotta be a short-term buyer, but medium longer term, I believe can go all the way down to here, about $70, 70 cents, right? 70.49, make it that way. 32, really good area of demand through there. Daily time frame, you can see through there. So back to a demand perspective. So we had a question right there. Will method 3 win or method 1 will win? Well, 2 both did win. However, method 1 will always win based on trends or sequential transitioning system, or based on the SDS. So the lower high basically wins, but now that it's at a level of demand, this is also where there's a potential component of buying. And right there around the 70 to 30, pretty good actually. So yeah, potential buy. Euro against the US dollar broke out within that low. So per our forecast, can it go now to around 117? In my opinion, it could possibly, odds and probability, it was highly probable. It's only like a 40, actually less than, 30, but yeah, less than 30, 40 pips within the range at this point. Weekly, since it was very bearish from last week too, the odds and probability to create a new lower low as per our forecast from that lower high is more than likely, which could potentially head towards around 116 within there. And if it breaks out, 112 euro against the dollar, we go to 112, which makes sense because the dollar index is in terms of the forecast to go 97. If it goes to 97, this is going to fail all the way down here to that 112 there. All right, so that's within the euro against the dollar. Pound against the US dollar. So mind you, this one always has its own mind and it's just sitting within the trend. Weekly time frame, potential still bearish all the way to fill in this gap, that one down to 136. Currently, you also have that morning star right there, right? And create new highs. So that high 42.41, 42.50. So overall, still basically in an uptrend since March of 2020. But once a proper higher low will form, this is going to head back up once again. So it's not as fast as the euro in terms of it dropping. However, there's still that potentiality of more bears to come before bullish, but I'm not bearish short term, more of a bullish basically for this week, in my opinion. Kiwi against the US dollar. Based on the weekly, they pushed it all up. And based from this trend, they're just sitting it through there, but within this distance, there's also some room to get around 70, 77, about 80, 90 pips to the upside. So daily time frame, still bullish with it. And yeah, there's an opportunity there. So there's 1 in terms of my favorite. 2, Aussie is also a favorite. Euro getting ready, basically. So part of a test trade. Dollar CAD in terms of the weekly, still very bullish. I'm still a proponent for it to head towards about 128. So it all depends on what up and coming news that higher low is forming. So daily time frame, once it breaks through 126, then easy. This is going to go head towards 127, even 128. But 126 is a really good supply level. And 4 hours, it is still showing a lot of signs of good signs right there. Dollar Swiss, winner chicken dinner. So happy with that one. After the breakout at 90.60, now it's about 140, 130 pips to the upside, approaching 92.20. So based on that weekly time frame from this, and then from this very bullish move, correction, in my opinion, it can go all the way to 94, 95. Since basically last April or even March of this year. Okay, so I'm bullish with the dollar Swiss, definitely no doubt. But for shorter term, it's depleting in terms of fours, and I know our target point, the major one's 90.50. It's getting there, but plan is to basically trail a stop once again, since this is majorly free trade, zero risk free trade. All right, so that's with the dollar Swiss. Let's look in terms of dollar yen. Dollar yen is also really nice. So potential continuation of it, which can lead beyond 111.50 if it chooses to. Daily time frame, approaching supply. So short term, I'm not a proponent of buying. Currently, there's a potential short pretty soon. But if you'll come back down from a correctional standpoint, then back to long position once again. All right, so that's with the majors against the US dollar. Any questions with the majors against the US dollar there, Perry?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, let's look in terms of majors against the yens. Weekly, potential bullish from that higher low. It all depends what we'll do, but create a piercing pattern through there, which means that the buyers pierced through all the selling pressure to the downside for the last 2 weeks. Buyers are coming in, so this one will head back around 80.50. There's another good buy, but I believe there's an M3. Bam. Okay, looks good. So definitely this is on my radar. Okay, let me go through here quickly too. All right, there's a sell through there, which is not good either, but the area of demand. So the question is, who will win once again, M3 or M1? Mind you, though, because of gold, very, very strong in terms of its bearish possibility that M3 with a downtrend is going to win. Okay, so euro. After that one, it's a way overbought. I mean, sorry, oversold at this point in time. 18.27. If it chooses to, about 80 pips to the upside will be a better bet. And hence, like I said, it's in the area of demand, so a better price point of selling. Ooh. All right, the pound has a entry point for selling, so which looks good. That's a good one. Kiwi holding its price. Dollar CAD. There is another entry, better entry point of actually buying, so I'm bullish with that. Dollar Swiss, way too far, so not even gonna go there. Oh, there was an entry last week, from Friday. Aussie, definitely. Euro, nothing. Pound, there was, however, that lower high is currently forming at this point. I'm still basically short with it. Okay. 4 hours, let's see, still in the constraints of the sell right there within the opening, sorry, closing, 152.86, yes, looks good. All right, weekly, yeah, I'm bearish with the, I'm very bearish with the pound yen. So actually looks really good for it to head back around 150, about 269, 270 pips to the downside. Okay, so that's where my projection is going to be in terms of forecasting. Looks good, looking good. Swiss yen, there is a potential short for this week. Yeah, really, it's already done. Basically, it's too far. 119. If it comes back around 120.50, even better. So I believe we looked into this last Friday. CAD yen, nothing is holding its price. Last but not the least, Kiwi holding its price as well. Let's go to short-term time frame, 4 hours, nothing. Still basically a sell. Still basically a sell. That one's already way gone. In terms of the Swiss yen, pardon me, pound yen, that one's done. Euro yen, that's way too far. Aussie, also basically still sell. Dollar yen, still basically a long, still going from a correctional standpoint. That one's still going to the downside. That one's way going to the downside. Still basically going to the downside. Also going to the downside, which all makes sense. Let's look at gold. Still going to the downside after that sell right there. Almost $90 actually. And oil, nothing, still to the downside, still to the downside, still to the upside, back to the upside. And hence that's why I'm actually bearish with this one. This one is looking really nice. All right,
How
so
is
this is
that
on the
hour?
market update for the week. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at estrators.com. Other than that, that is the market update. And